Welcome, everybody. I'm joined by Eric, and we are here to do the top 11 rarest Lord of the Rings TCG cards. Now, this is a list that is probably going to be kind of contentious. I feel like a lot of people are saying this card's more rare, this card's less rare. So what we did with this list is we put a lot of things into buckets. So, for example, Fellowship of the Ring foil rares are all one spot on our list so that the entire list isn't just this card and then this card and this card. We wanted to show off a variety of cards. We want to show off a variety of different, rarities and, masterworks versus rare foils. And so there's definitely some gaps in this. It's not complete. This game has over 3,000 cards, most of which aren't worth very much, but these are some highlights. Any kind of thoughts here on the top before we get started, Eric?
Yeah, I think you said it well, Matt, is we're trying to highlight some of the most interesting and most rare cards, and we'll kind of break that down as we go through. But yeah, it's not, I think the rare cards are all on here, whether it's definitive, the ordering, that can be up to interpretation. But I think it'll be a fun little journey here. So.
Yeah, and I encourage folks to please share their list as well, what we think, where this would be. So this is our 11th place, which is a Tangwar. This is the Andriel.
This one's Andriel Flame of the West.
So, Eric, do you want to talk about why this is rare? So, I thought this just came in the Return of the King anthology box, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone thinks on. There's this card, and then there's Sting Baggins Heirloom, which were separate promotional cards. I don't know what the distribution was, but they were not distributed with the regular anthologies. So there was anthology sets for the first 4 blocks, and they all had Tangwar cards in them in just a fixed set that you'd get the same set every time. This was not part of that set. So that's what makes this one, as well as Sting Baggins Heirloom, rare among Tangwar cards. So you'll always see, complete Tangwar sets will not typically have these in it. And then these will be separately sold at a higher price. I think this one's maybe around 150. So, not totally breaking the bank, but it's certainly a rare card that'll demand a decent price on its own.
Yeah, I put this on this list because it's just a bit unusual. I think it was a mail-in promo. I think you had to mail in a certain number of packs you opened or something to get this back in the mail. So this is just a bit of an odd one that's maybe not in a lot of people's radar if they're collecting. But this is our 11th place slot. And we did 11 because I thought, Bilbo Baggins' 11th birthday. I don't know. We had to pick a number. So you need to have
10 was an honorable mention, but we just call it 11. So
yeah, right. All right. So in our next spot, I have the set 16 Wraiths. These are not higher up because, frankly, I see these kind of everywhere. Like, you can buy these on eBay right now. They're probably listed at $400, but frequently I see them for sale for $200, $250. So I don't actually think these are that hard to find, but it is sort of an interesting thing to collect. They're a bit of an oddity. This was a 6-card set, only foil. I think it came sealed. I actually don't have any sealed. I haven't really seen any.
Yeah, it's sealed in just a clear plastic cellophane pack that Decipher did for certain things, and that's how you can get it sealed. And yeah, I concur with you. I think it's about maybe 400 sealed and about 250 opened. And I think it is rare, but I think largely because the cards are so bad in terms of playability that you still see them around.
Right. And like for a collector, like I only want one set of these. They're cool, but they're not, I need 3 sets of these that cool. So this is our 10th place slot. But let's keep moving on our list here. So we're going to have number 9. So this broadly is some Two Towers foils. Let's put this as the number 9 slot. So these are some of the highlights within Two Towers foils. So we have the One Ring there, which I think is actually probably the most valuable One Ring foil. I think that this is probably a $450, $500 card at this point.
Yeah, it depends, but yeah, I would say of even compared to the set 1 One Ring, the set 4 One Ring is usually higher premium than that, even maybe by 20% or so. So it depends on the prices. I would say that the rings appear to have been going up in pricing more recently. Everything else is staying pretty stable, but rings are really desirable, mostly because anyone who likes Lord of the Rings from outside this game sees those, and those are instantly, if they're like, hey, I'm just going to have 5 or less Lord of the Rings cards, it's always going to be, I want the ring, because they're so cool looking in foil, especially this one in particular. You see the gold ring foil, and then you see the water foiling effect. It's definitely one of all-time any CCG best looking foil cards.
Yeah, and sorry that I couldn't find the actual foil photos to put up here. So this is all, these all are foiled. And so the next two are really cards that are valuable because they see play in deck. Both of these are incredibly powerful cards, and I don't know, they're probably both about 200 each, if not a
Yeah,
little bit more.
I'd say they're 200. Hides maybe up to 250 at this point. But yeah, they're basically the idea with both of those, as you said, is they're desired as a 4 of in a competitive deck that is playable typically across multiple formats. And so that's the reason why these two cards in particular are very valuable. I listed a couple honorable mentions here as far as other, kind of desirable Two Towers foils. The Aomer from this set is really good, but again, it's a main character, but you're also only going to play one of it. And then like the other two kind of main characters for Shadow is the Easterling Captain and the Desert Lord are both in this set as well. Again, both desirable as 4 ofs in their decks, but definitely I'd say a tier below these two. Those might be in like the 150 range.
Yeah, Easterling Captain might be the number one of those for me. I think that's just I'm still after that card myself, and I I see it. It's also just like how frequently do things come up for sale. Like I think even at $200, these sell pretty quick, right? And so you don't see
they will sell off right away even at that price. And like I said, the ring, probably still sub 500, but you probably could get, if you waited around, you could probably sell it for 500.
Yeah. Okay. Our next slot. This is set 15 Hunter's Masterworks. Why are these not higher up? Because these are actually kind of available. Like you can probably find these on eBay. I think each of these is, between let's say 150 and 200. These are the 3 most valuable ones. I think they look really great, but I actually think they're rather available. They're just all 9 are probably going to run you over $1,000 here, but they're not as rare as the other Masterworks. Still great looking cards, right? But I think you can kind of find these. They're on eBay right now for expensive buy it nows, but they're not totally unavailable.
Yeah, I'd concur with that. I'd say that set 15, to find anything sealed from there is next to impossible, but there was, a substantial amount of that product opened. And so these Masterworks are out there. And for people who don't know, I think most people watching this video probably know, but Masterworks is an 8-card set that
9
is,
card, right?
9-card set, but rarer than the 18-card set, which are just the standard rare foils. And they started doing that as of set 12. But then set 15 is when they really kind of started. It was the beginning of the end when they started short printing stuff. But yeah, I would say 15 compared to the 2 sets that follow it, 15 is definitely much more plentiful.
And so Masterworks were about 1 in every booster box approximately. So that's sort of a way to think about it as well. So I think there were 6 rare foils, which had RF in the bottom. The Masterworks have that little circle, that little ring. So it was 1 per booster box about. So let's keep moving on our list. I think we're on to number, I lost track, 7 maybe. This is Fellowship foils, right? So like obviously we could have done a different number for each of these, but in general, like Fellowship foils as a whole are pretty hard to find. These 3 in particular are pretty hard to find. You don't really see them for sale very often. And I think these are also my favorite. The Isildur's Bane, I'm so happy I have this card. Because I don't know if I could find it ever again. These are just not frequently for sale. Goblin Armory is impossible to find. Legolas, Greenleaf, really hard to find. Just really great looking cards. All 3 of these see play. All 3 of them have collector's value, maybe except Goblin Armory. I don't think there's many people out there collecting Goblin Armories, which is a really playable card, but also look great. Any other thoughts here, Eric?
Yeah, I'd say just my comment relative to the rarity of Fellowship foils is they're the most collectible just because it was the first set, and anyone who's collecting foils or starting to get into collecting foil sets will typically start with set 1. So there's just a greater amount of demand for Fellowship foils comparatively to like Two Towers foils, for example, because this is the set that everyone is after as the original base set. And so, yeah, that does drive up the demand. And then, yeah, many highly playable cards here. And as you said, the three listed here, I'd say I concur that those are the 3 highest dollar ones you're looking at, with Isildur's Bane probably being the highest of the 3, but then the other 2 not far behind. I'd say you're talking 250 range for Armory and Legolas, and probably 350 for Isildur's Bane.
Yeah. I think the other thing to note is I think Fellowship Block, I was talking with the PC about it, and Fellowship Block is still the most popular format to play on GEMP. So I think people like playing the OG, the first 3 sets, and so I think that's another reason why these cards, well, they're all highly playable, but if maybe you're just getting into collecting, but also a lot of people are playing Fellowship Block more so than Two Towers Block or Return of the King Block.
Yeah, it's just there's more nostalgia for it, and it's an easier format to get into because of the more limited card pool. So yeah, I completely understand that.
All right, let's see what's up next here. This card, the Aragorn Defender of Rohan, the D-Agent exclusive. I used to think this card was insanely rare, and then I think somebody found like a bunch of them, and I think now it's just moderately rare. I think this is maybe a $300 to $400 card. It's confusing because this is also the same as a set 17 card, which is incredibly rare in Masterwork as well as Rare Form, but this is the promo version. I'm glad I picked this up like 2 years ago because I don't know if you can really find it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You got the analysis there just right, that it's, it is a rare card, but, somewhere out there was a stash of them. I compare it to like, for Star Wars people, this is like the Maul with saber foil or the Qui-Gon with saber foil. It's a highly sought after main character promotional foil card. Somewhere at some point, someone discovers a massive stash of them, and then that can, tank the market. But long run, there's not very many out there. It's a staple character. It's a rare card. It is gonna be valuable.
Yeah, I have aspirations to get mine signed by Vigo. That's one of my aspirations. So
yeah, and it's got a nice space in there for a signature. So
yeah. All right, next on our list, this is the Gil-galad from set 18, which is one of the remaining cards I need to finish the set, and I just have not bitten the bullet to buy it. There's a couple other set 18 cards I could probably put on this: Scouring the Shire, that Scary Rock.
Oh yeah, the Faithful Stone, the Faithful
Stone. But I think that this is the one iconic one that I wanted to put on the list, is the Gil-galad. This is a really good, kind of broken card, I'm pretty sure, and it goes for like $400 to $450, and more so than the others. These are just never for sale, or if they are, they're set for $500 or 500 euros or something. So I don't actually own any of this, but Eric, I think you've
I've got a play set. Matt tried to convince me to break up my play set. I had to say no, but but basically why it's desirable is because in expanded or later formats, it's the center of a broken engine of condition recurrence. It's a broken card that wasn't properly play tested, and so in any format where it's legal, you play 4 of it to set up a broken engine of condition loops. So that's the large, and it's kind of a cool main character too. Not the most main of characters, but still a cool main character that people like from that opening sequence. So
yeah, it's funny. I feel like there's all of 45 seconds of him on film, like the actual. It's very.
Watch the Rings of Power and see a different actor, but same idea. So
yeah, he's kind of a jerk in the Rings of Power, right? I think.
Yes.
My hot take.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So.
Next on our list, this is the set 18 Masterworks. I'm going to put all 9 of them on here. I actually don't know if these 3. I think Boring Axe might be the rarest of the bunch.
And then in terms of desirability, presumably all these cards exist in equal quantities, but there is going to be desirability because that's a card that people are going to want for decks, versus most of the rest of set 18 is not highly playable for decks, at least as far as the Masterworks go.
Yeah, and so you might wonder, like, oh, I thought set 18 that's the last set, so it must have been printed even, in fewer quantity than set 17. And I don't actually know if that's true. I think set 17 is just kind of elusive and doesn't feel like there's a lot out there. But I do see set 18 sometimes. Maybe people just bought it because like, oh, this is the final set. I'm going to buy a couple more packs, and they sort of skip 17. But for whatever reason, these are just a little cheaper and a little more available than the set 17. There's 9 in total, 1 per booster box. I'm trying to think what the other 6 are. There's like a Reckenbrand or something, and there's a
Erkenbrand's horn. There's a shield, Rohirrim shield of some sort. I can't remember his Erkenbrand shield.
There's a Denethor sword. they're just like, I'm like, why would you choose a like Masterwork Denethor's sword?
Yeah,
Right?
the selection I agree was some poor choices on Decipher's part. Why is there not a Masterwork Gil-galad, for example? There was some low hanging fruit that you could have gone after, but they went after like all the artifacts. It's kind of like, hey, do we print an obscure artifact? Okay, well let's Masterwork that.
Yeah.
So I don't
Strange
know if that
choice.
was the logic, is like that Masterworks should be like weapons and possessions and crowns and thrones, but that definitely seemed to be the route they were going.
Well, with 18, with 17, there's lots of main characters that have Masterworks, right? It's like mostly main characters, I think, right?
It's kind of 50-50. I'd say you kind of go from 15, which has the most characters, to 17, which has a few, to 18, which has none other than like, again,
Yeah.
actually has any. Yeah. So.
All right, but let's continue on our list here. This random card it's like $900. I'm not even quite sure why. I believe that this AMR, which is promo 66 there, was a online league play promo, I believe in like 2005. And it's just because of that, like not a lot of people really got it. And so this is probably the most rare promo card out there, sells for.
Yeah. And I can't speak to the distribution specifically. Again, this is one where there's the set of the 5 or 6 or whatever it is. And I don't know if they were distributed sequentially and this was the last one, or if it was like you get to pick one promo and no one picked Éomer because there's a Frodo, there's a Gandalf, there's an Arwen, there's some more desirable characters. But for whatever reason now, desirability in terms of cost and scarcity, this card is more scarce than the other ones, and the price reflects that.
Yep. I don't want to spend too long on this one because I think these are way more interesting to talk about. So this is the set 17 Masterworks. So one per booster box. And I actually don't know why I didn't put Aragorn up here. But basically these are like $500 a piece. And the Aragorn, I think, just sold for $900 on eBay. And they're just, if you want to find a full set of all 9, you'll be lucky to get it for less than $5K maybe. And it's just a pretty big investment to be making in 9 cards, all which look fantastic. But they're also just, I think, as far as number out there, there's just not many out there.
Yeah, I concur with you. For whatever reason, set 17, just in my experience, set 17 is definitely more rare than set 18, in particular relative to these Masterworks. So it's definitely harder to find, and there's extreme shortage of these cards out there. And I know of people that would just say, hey, I will pay you $500 today for this one specific card that I need to complete my set, and the card just is not out there on the market to even be purchased.
Exactly. Now I remember why I didn't put the Aragorn on here. It's because it's the same one as the promo, and I didn't want to confuse people.
It's the same one as the promo. It just doesn't say D-Agent exclusive, and it has the 17O in the bottom corner.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Same border, same name, everything. Yeah.
I think now is a good time for an asterisk before we get to our final one here. So this is the second rarest item in the game. I think the 17 rare foils are nearly as rare as the Masterworks. You just don't really see them for sale. There's 18 to collect, so it can feel a little tedious to be spending, $100 times 18 cards. It can, and some are way more than $100. But there's also rare foils from set 17, which are just pretty hard to track down. I actually don't have any of them, and I don't know. It's
and there's some desirable cards in there, like Shadowfax is one that comes to mind. That's very playable in most expanded decks, and it's Masterworks as well as regular, but even the regular foil version is very hard to find.
Yeah, there's a Shelob in there, I think, as well, right?
Shelob. Yeah, there is. I can't remember if that's. I don't even remember if that's 17 or 18.
I haven't even seen the Masterwork or the rare foils, so I don't really know what they look like because they just don't come up.
I think Shelob might be 18, but either way,
maybe you're right.
The point is taken is that the rare foil versions in each of these sets are also rare, such that they would qualify for top 10. But again, we don't want to give too many slots to this kind of the same thing over and over. So
okay, so we're moving on to our final card here. And I think this is one that I'm going to leave to Eric to explain because it's a little confusing why these two sites are worth so much money.
Yeah, these two are kind of a bit of a legend. So these are the OD promos. So the first run of promos that Decipher did are all numbered OP, and then the last run of promos, just the last 12, were all OD, or excuse me, 14. OD is the first initials. That's just most of them are sites. They're not particularly desirable, obviously, because who collects a site card as something to say, hey, people want rings, people want main characters, you get that, but who says I want this site? So these are really only for completionist collectors who absolutely have to have all the cards. The OP promo set 1 through 12 basically were, these are given out, or excuse me, OD set 1 through 12 were given out at tournaments. So even the first 12 are very rare. But then these final two, 13 and 14, were essentially never released publicly. And so I don't know initially how they got out into the market, but presumably someone, had a very small box of these, because that's all that exists of them. And then they've been sold, over the last 10 years on the open market. And even, I go back to when Lord of the Rings, you could buy boxes for $5, $10 a box. These promos were still selling even at that time for in the hundreds of dollars. Now you're going to be seeing these in the thousands of dollars, depending on who you talk to and the availability and how eager the person is to get rid of it. But again, these simply just don't exist. Like if you said today, I want to buy both of these cards, it's in a handful of people's hands, that most of the people, it's either a private collection that they have their copy that they're not willing to sell, or there's a small number of sellers that have, may have some extra, but they're not willing to part with it unless the price is, multiple 4 figures. So
Yeah.
it's
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a very interesting market that's pretty much controlled at a very small level, and it basically due to the fact that these cards aren't released, they're very obscure, and they're really only for completionist collectors.
I think 2 of these as a pair or actually it was all the D promos sold for what, $4,500?
Yeah, there was just an auction for about $4,500 for the OD 1 through 14. So those 14 cards sold for $4,500, and I can tell you right now, 4,000 of that is locked in these 2 cards. So I mean, you're looking at a couple thousand a card, probably market wise, but that's sold together as a set. You try to buy these individually, it probably, you could end up getting up to 2,500, 3,000 again, depending on what the negotiations are, because there's just no market for it.
Yeah. And are these foils? Remind me, I've never seen one in person. Are they foiled or are they?
They are foils, yeah. And the ones I've seen have tended to not be in the greatest condition, but I think, some of the better conditions ones were picked out over time 10 years ago. So the ones that are still floating around tend to be more in like a moderate play type of shape. But yeah, they are foils. The Falls of RAREST in particular. Well, actually, both of these are beautiful looking foils if you like sight cards. But again, as a person who's not, well, I am a Lord of the Rings collector. As someone who's not a deep Lord of the Rings collector, you'd look at this and say, why is this the rarest card in the game?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's the thing about collecting, is it's like a lot of times the most rare thing is just an oddity. It's a strange thing. It's a misprint. It's a card that shouldn't have been released. It's an overpowered card. It's a broken card. But that's just how collecting goes. You got a real mixed bag there. Yeah. So we're going to close this out with a few honorable mentions, which we have in our final slide here. So honorable mentions, Return of the King foils. Why are these not on our list? I think it's because there's just full sets that were, I believe they were non-factory cut by Wild Thing Games, and they just were for sale for a long time. I mean, you can still buy a full
sale, in a limited quantity. You can still get a set of Return of the King foils from them, and yeah, they're very Pringly, the foils, but they seem to be more. You can't just go out and buy a Fellowship set or a Tower set. You can just go out and buy a King set. So I'd say they're a little less rare. The grass ring is probably a little less desirable than the other 2 big rings in the other 2 sets. So yeah.
Yeah, I also think no one really plays just Return of the King format. They play movie block, they might play Fellowship block, but no one plays Return of the King format only. So there's another kind of playability aspect there. Set 14, which was the expanded universe. These are sort of the little small boxes.
Expanded Middle Earth. Your Star Wars.
Middle Earth, right? Sorry, yeah, expanded mill. Yeah, they're out there. The sealed product is pretty hard to find these days, but they're out there. They're fairly rare. Yeah. Maybe it's $200 for all. I think there's what?
Yeah. The sealed product, again, impossible to find, but they packaged it like in enhanced packaging, like, you know, like compared to Star Wars or whatever, in those same enhanced boxes where you'd get 12 boxes the yep. 12 inner boxes in the outer box. And so they also had two of each character in those boxes. So if you bought one of those 12 count starter deck big boxes, you'd have 8 complete sets. So, you know, the sets are generally available, but the sealed product is impossible to find. And so, yeah, the pricing though is, you know, probably a couple $100 gets you a set of the premiums, which is, I don't remember, 16, 24 cards, something like that.
Yep. And the final one on our list are the Bloodworks or Bloodlines Masterworks, which I think are really underrated. And Bloodlines is a set I think has seen some pretty precipitous increases in price over the last, like, let's say, you know, 2 years. When I first entered back into collecting in 2020, Bloodlines for a box was like $150, and I think it's like $900 now.
Yeah, Bloodlines is pushing the 1,000 at this point, and it's again, the cards are not. It's very short printed relative to what happened. Was Black Rider was obscenely overprinted, and yep. Then I actually read about this. I don't remember, but on some way back thing, the Black Rider was so obscenely overprinted that it was the opposite swing for Bloodlines, and that Bloodlines was very underprinted. And basically the Masterworks, obviously same thing, are going to be the rarest in that set. There's a lot of cool characters. They're not, the versions in that set are not particularly playable, but it's still cool versions of main characters in a very extremely short printed set that you're only getting one to a box of. So, similar concept to the other 3 Masterworks we've mentioned on the list, but, you know, slightly easier to get than the Hunters. But yeah, you know, Bloodlines is definitely going to be the next Hunters in terms of the trajectory of where it's going.
Yeah, but notably, Black Rider will not be the next Bloodlines. I think Black Rider is just going to be maybe
Black Rider is just going to be, hey, if you want to get a cool Balrog Masterwork, you know, for $50-$70, you're always going to be able to.
I actually might do a box opening of Black Rider because I just have one sitting around. I kind of want to hunt some Masterworks, so I might do that for a future video. But that is our list, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And by the way, if you want more Lord of the Rings TCG stuff, you guys should check out Eric's channel. He has a bunch of cool stuff. He does actually much cooler stuff than I do, and he does light video editing, which I'm too lazy to do. So I'm going to have a link to that in the video description. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And anything final thoughts here, Eric?
No, appreciate the plug for the channel. It's Library of Orthonk, LOTR TCG. And yeah, we do weekly videos, and a lot of it's, you know, deck techs and stuff, but we've got deck techs, box openings, all kinds of stuff. So definitely appreciate that, and appreciate everything Matt does for all the Dead Decipher CCGs. So definitely poke around on his channel and check out some content. I've been watching a lot more lately, and it's, you know, it's definitely fun to, it's like discovering things all over again, or learning some things you never knew. So appreciate all of you guys.
There's a lot to learn about old crap, it turns out. Anyways, we'll catch everybody next time.
All right. Thanks.